So babes, in our last video I talked about certain plant care tips that have truly aged terribly, and a lot of you loved that video. In fact, some of you have been begging me for a sequel to that video. Look, I promise you I'm going to give you a sequel, right? In fact, I actually plan to post a sequel today, but I told myself, in the spirit of feng shui, let's balance things off this week, okay? We've been a bit too shady in our previous video. In this video, let's highlight a bit more of the positives, right? Let's expose some of the most positive and helpful plant care advice I have learned through the years, both on social media and off social media. So babes, grab a notepad, grab something, grab your cup of coffee. This is gonna be an earth-shattering, impactful expose of a video. Without much ado, let's get to the nitty-gritty. I will say, guys, old gardeners, old people honestly give the best garden / plant advice. And this first plant advice I'm giving you was by an elderly gentleman that I saw on a Summer Ray Oaks video about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I can't remember the exact video, but he gave some very, very powerful and sage advice. Ooh. As they were about to report a massive ZZ, I remember this very vividly. They were about to report a massive and huge ZZ, and he said something. He said, look, a lot of people do not know this, but each time you're reporting a plant, especially if that plant is thriving, keyword, especially if the plant is thriving, it is doing well in its current mix, in its current soil, it is very advisable, highly recommended that you add some of that old soil into the new mix. Millennials, I want you to please listen to this, please, because I don't know what is happening, especially my Western millennials, my American girlies, my European girlies, Canadian girlies. I don't know who started this trend, or whenever they want to report a plant, they will completely strip the plant of its old soil. They will literally wash away all its old soil and just expose the roots, and then from there they will, put it into a fresh mix. Honey, please, can we free ourselves from the shackles of doing? I have freed myself from it. I don't know about you guys. If I say a plant is doing well, the roots, there are no root rot issues, there are no pest issues. When I'm reporting that plant, best believe I'm just gonna carry it as it is, bam, and dump it to the bigger pot. I don't like to play around with the roots, but let's not digress. Now, the exception obviously to this is if you're dealing with a root rot situation, or you're obviously dealing with like a pest issue. So obviously the soil might be contaminated and you want to get rid of that soil. But if you see a plant that is thriving, please take out some of that old soil and make sure you incorporate it into the new soil you're going to give that plant. And why this is so is because he said some of that old soil will obviously contain fauna and fauna, healthy microorganisms, healthy fungi, healthy bacteria that are now part of the plant's root ecosystem, that the plant is actually used to, that the plant actually interacts with. When you add some of that culture, that's essentially what you're doing. You're adding some of that culture of microorganisms to the new soil. The plant is then easily able to transition effectively, rapidly, and can very easily assimilate the nutrients in the new soil without encountering things like transplant shock and all of the issues that may typically come when you report a plant. Because sometimes when you report these plants, they tend to just have a period where they're like before they then transition into their bigger pots or their newer mediums, which could be because you aren't adding some of that old soil to the new soil. This second one I also learned from an elderly, a garden auntie, one of my favorite garden aunties. Some of you may remember I taught her roadside garden a few months ago. If you haven't checked that tour, I strongly recommend you do after this video. This is also another reporting hack that honestly has saved me a lot of my favorite pots, especially my favorite terracotta pots or ceramic pot. If you ever have like a ceramic pot or terracotta pot that you really like and you have a plant inside it that is incredibly root bound. Speaking of root bound, can you see the roots poking out of this one? Yeah, so you have a plant inside it that is incredibly root bound and you want to actually extract that plant out of the pot without breaking the pot. Honey, this hack is for you. All you have to do, guys, is flood that pot with water.
What?
Yes, flood that pot with water. Take that plant outside or take it to like a sink or like your bathtub and then flood that plant with water. When I mean flood, I mean flood. And then allow that plant to soak in the water for a few minutes. And babes, all you have to do next, and this is the satisfying part, just pull that plant gently off the pot. It will just easily come out of the pot like butter, like the whole thing will just. So what you're going to end up having is a situation where you have saved your favorite pot, but also a situation where you truly haven't stressed the roots of that plant as well. It's like a win-win situation. And don't worry, honestly, I've tried this with several plants before, even ones that love to stay dry. Remember, the volume of water is not what causes root rot. It is how frequently you water. So if you're worried that, oh my God, are you sure if I, submerge this in water for so long, isn't it going to rot? No, it doesn't. Just bring it out. It is so satisfying to watch. Bring it out, and then you've ultimately saved yourself that pot, and you don't have to keep smashing and breaking your pots, your favorite pots. Okay, wait. Before we proceed, may I please ask you, yes, you, the viewer, may I ask you one question? Why haven't you subscribed to this channel? Why are you still watching at this point? You're laughing, yet you haven't subscribed? Please hit the subscription button. You people should not let me, I have a cane. If you're watching this and you don't realize I'm an African and I have a cane in my house. So please subscribe. Okay, so the next one is, look, my garden outdoor girly. This is going to be a major game changer for you this spring/summer. Listen to me carefully because it may seem crazy, but it actually works. If you're dealing with like a massive snail/slug infestation and you want to treat it the organic way, babes, eggshells. Oh my God, not only is it pretty much affordable, even though the price of eggs, my girl is in America, I heard that the price of eggs has gone up, but it's still relatively affordable. But it's also organic because you're doing 2 in 1. You are inevitably fertilizing your plants with the calcium in the eggshells while also getting rid of those evil slugs/snails. Now, some people might find this a bit contradictory because actually snails actually eat eggshells. In fact, if you have a snail farm, one of the meals you give them is crushed eggshells. So snails actually eat eggshells and it makes their shells stronger. But in order to ensure that this actually works, and this is not something that I'm telling you because I read it on the internet, somebody advised me to do this because I once had a very nasty snail infestation and I did it, and babes, it worked. The hack is to ensure that the shells are broken in a rough way. You don't want them to be extremely fine. You want them to be chunky, not too big, but not too small, just like an in between, so that they actually start to feel like shreds, or rather shards of broken glass. That is when you know you have the right consistency, and you can then use them to just apply on top the surface of your plants or your garden bed. Now, what will happen is that because the snails actually have very slimy and delicate appendages, I think that's what they are called, it literally feels like they are walking on broken glass. And honestly, I don't know what happens, I don't know what happens. Maybe they're probably cut to pieces, but they literally disappear. Like, honestly, babes, this honestly and actually works. And ironically, was actually one of my favorite garden friends. I call her auntie that actually gave me this hack. When I tell you, look, listen to your older garden friends. Listen, ask them for advice. They honestly are packed with practical wisdom from back in the day. But I should add that you want to ensure that the eggshells that you're using are actually thoroughly washed and dried. Okay, because if eggshells still have a bit of that yolk and a bit of the egg residue in them and they're not properly washed, they can become really stinky in your garden, and they can start to attract like vermin, like rats and squirrels and all of that stuff. Okay, so make sure you wash, dry, then use. I told you this video was going to be really helpful. By the way, how do you guys like the way I'm holding my microphone? Somebody dropped a very shady comment. And was like, oh, they don't like it when people who use small microphones, hold it in their hands. And I was like, people will always find something to get angry at. People will always, no matter what you do, people will always find something to get angry at. So I figured, you know what? Let me make them even madder by using my hairbrush. As a microphone handle. Oh my god, guys, the electricity just went off. So we have to round this up before I die of heat here. Let's proceed. So the next one is cinnamon, darlings. Now, cinnamon honestly is my least favorite spice. I love garlic. Is my favorite spice. In case you didn't know, I love garlic. Oh my god, I do not play with garlic and onion spice. Okay, my two favorite, but my least favorite is definitely cinnamon because it has a very caustic taste. But I digress. It might be my least favorite spice, but honestly, it is my most useful spice in the garden. What I do with it is that each time I take a cutting of a plant, especially of it like a succulent plant, a plant that has very succulent stems, that tend to rot rather easily. Once I take the cutting of that plant, I get myself cinnamon powder, and then I add it just to where I made that cut. And darlings, I don't know the science behind this. I am not a scientist. I don't know, but it honestly prevents that cut from having rot. It acts like a massive antibacterial agent or whatever, and prevents like infection, and it prevents that cut from having like rot. So it's a great hack. In fact, if you're a Nigerian, I think you should be able to agree with me in this hack, because we eat yam a lot. If you don't know what I mean by yam, I don't mean the sweet potatoes. You guys in America call your sweet potatoes yam. No, we actually have yams, actual yam tubers. So we eat it a lot. It's part of our staples. You can either fry it or you make it into like pounded yam and use it for like your soups and stews, all of that stuff. But whenever you cut the tuber of yam, what tends to happen is that the parts that you've cut generally will tend to start rotting and disintegrating, and may actually lead to the entire rot of the tuber. But what a lot of us in Nigeria now do, and I think is a trick we also learned from social media, which also is proof that this cinnamon thing actually works, is that we add cinnamon. We add cinnamon to the exposed cut of our yam tubers, and it actually enables it to last longer even after being cut. So cinnamon, please, you need to incorporate. It needs to be used in anytime you're taking a cutting, anytime you're propagating any plant. Just add cinnamon to that cut part. Especially if you're propagating in soil, you're less likely to encounter like rot issues when you propagate in water, obviously, because soil has a lot of microorganisms, right? But that cinnamon acts as a sort of like barrier, plus the caustic nature as well. I think it could also be like some sort of antiseptic. Again, I'm not a healthcare professional, neither am I. But guys, interestingly though, I actually studied food science in the university. So like I'm technically a food scientist, so you think I would know these things, right? Yeah, like more random fact. I studied food science and technology. I have a B Tech in food science and technology. It was truly one of the most difficult. Like, oh my god, thinking about it now is triggering me because it was a very, very difficult course. It's literally an engineering course, guys. Like, for someone who hates maths, it was honestly a struggle to graduate. But I digress. Cinnamon is that girl. Thankfully, the electricity has been restored. Let me move closer to where the fan is. Oh, Jesus. Filming in this country without electricity, filming for YouTube in this country without electricity, I strongly would not advise. Anyway, so the next one, and this one may be a bit controversial, okay? But I want you to use this with caution. Okay, I want you to use this with caution. Please, I beg of you, do not use it every single time. Just use it maybe when your friends are coming over and you want to impress them. You want to give them the illusion that your plants are literally shining and glowing once in a while. Okay, once in a while, please, not all the time. It is using oil, specifically organic oil. Okay, organic. I'm not saying that, chemical oils like your engine oil, please. But using oil, adding that oil, just maybe a spoon or like maybe 2 tablespoons, adding it to some liquid soap, liquid dish soap. Stay with me. I know it sounds scary, but stay with me. And mixing it together, you mix it together, you give it a good shake, and then using that mixture to spray and clean the leaves of your plants. Babes, your plants will be shiny. Your plants will be shining bright like a diamond. This hack exists so you do not have to buy leaf shine. This is the healthier equivalent to using, the more sensible equivalent to using mayonnaise, because that's a bit of a common thing. It is actually the oil that actually makes these plants shine. Now, why I said it should mix it with liquid, emphasis on liquid, please do not use bleach. This soap acts like an emulsifier and it enables the oil to mix properly and better with your mix, which also includes some water as well, because water and oil doesn't mix, but that liquid dish soap will enable them to actually mix together. Also, the liquid dish soap actually serves as a pest treatment as well. It has pesticide properties that can actually be used to get rid of certain pests, like your spider mites, more like surface level type pest. Okay, I've never bought leaf shine for one day in my life. Why? When I have oil, and the oil I use is cooking oil. That oil I use is cooking oil. That's why I said this one, you need to take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of, experiment with your, like maybe one of your least favorite plants that just needs a good wash. Okay, experiment with that, and then if you like the results, you can then use it for your other plants. But again, sporadically. I literally just do this maybe once or twice a month, very sporadically. Okay. Now this one, I'm sure we can all agree with this one. The previous point was a bit divisive, I would imagine, but this point we can pretty much all agree. And if you didn't know, please get on board with it. It has really helped my garden, and I want it to help yours as well. Rainwater, my loves. Rainwater is truly the best source of nutrients for your plant. I dare say it is better than even your Miracle Grow, darling. Rainwater honestly just contains the perfect balance of nitrates, pH. I think it's also, there's some oxidates in there as well. I don't know the terminology, but apparently just contains the perfect balance that your plants love. And as somebody who lives in a tropical country and I grow plants outdoors, during the rainy season, guys, these plants are just so happy. the way they glow whenever it rains. It's something you have to see in person. Whenever it rains, the plants, they just take on a new life. They are just happy. And anyone that grows plants outdoors knows that during the rainy season, the plants grow like crazy. In fact, during the rainy season, I actually do not fertilize my plants. It is not advised for your outdoor plants. The indoor ones are still going to get fertilized, but it is actually not advised that you fertilize plants during the rainy season outdoors, or if you, I guess, even live in a very rainy climate, because it can actually lead to over fertilization. And when there's a lot of nitrates in your soil, it can lead to a boom of pest in your soil and around your plants. This is according to what somebody told me, also an elderly auntie as well. If you didn't know, please, now you know. Store rainwater. Because apparently in some parts, in some states in the US, apparently some of you were telling me that you're not allowed to store rainwater. I was like, what? So please, if you're having to live in a place where you're permitted to store rainwater, please store as much of it as you can, or bring out your plants on your porch, on your balcony, on your deck, so that they can enjoy that good rain. Also, rainwater also acts in a way as a pest deterrent as well, especially if you live in the part of the world where I live in, where it rains when it rains, it's like a deluge. That rain actually gets rid of pests on the leaves of your plants, and the pests have a hard time establishing like a colony as well. So yeah, rainwater overall is good for your plant. So my loves, we have come to the end of this video, and honestly speaking, I really hope you found it impactful and helpful. As usual, please, this is an open forum, and I'm really curious to know, have you tried any of these hacks before? Any of these tips, have you tried them before, and what was your experience? Okay, please let me know in the comments. Until then, I'ma see you in the next video. Bye, my loves.